Right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Rise and Grind. There we go. Their audio is all in check. So, all right. What are we going to talk about? Should I be or meant to be? That's right. We're going to talk exactly about that, restarting the whole stream. Sorry about that. There were some minor technical difficulties, but we're going to talk about, our path direction here on Rise and Grind in the morning with 72 the Architect. So stay tuned here in just a moment. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Rise and Grind. That's right, we're doing and producing live. Sounds in check. No video or technical difficulty anymore. Got everything dialed in. Anyway, that happens, and I think it's kind of an interesting interjection of what happens in life. We have things that where we're going to have to pivot, but today, you know, if you look back in life, did you end up in the place that you wanted to be or that you thought you were meant to be? Have you had to change your journey? That's really what today's episode is about. And when I read in the last 2 days of the Daily Stoic, it got me to really think about even my own direction and how long did it take to get to the profession or the relationship or the place in life. So the Stoic questions of the day, that's right, Stoic questions of the day says exactly this. What kind of person do I want to be? Right. That's one. And two, am I showing or telling? Two interesting questions, two different sets of thought, but there are two quotes from the same philosopher, same book from Epictetus's discourses, I should say. And definitely, we're going to get things going. Let's see. Let me invite some of my good and dear friends, new listeners, all that good stuff. So we're going to do that real quick. That's right. I'm going to invite everybody I can and get this really going. All right. I think I've done pretty much everything I needed to do. All right. So I'm live on Clapper and YouTube just to give you guys food for thought. And yeah, so here we go. All right. All right. Done all the invitations. If people come in, great. I'm also on YouTube, so you can find me 72 the Architect, aka Jason B. All right. So the first quote says, first tell yourself what kind of person you want to be, then do what you have to do, right? For in nearly every pursuit, we see this to be the case. Those in athletics and pursuit, and the first choice is to choose the sport they want to do, and then do the work. Interesting. But Ryan goes on to explain, and he says an archer highly unlikely to hit a target she or he did not aim for. That same goes for you. Whatever your target is, you are certain to miss that target if you don't bother to draw back and fire. Our perceptions and principles guide us in the selection of what we want, but ultimately our actions determine whether we get there or not. So yes, spend some time, real uninterrupted time, and thinking about what's important to you, what your priorities are, then the work towards that and forsake all others. It's not enough to wish and hope. One must act and act right. No, I think that's very interesting to say the least, for so many reasons. I will tell you that I have made a lot of assumptions and a lot of guesses because I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I can remember clear back in high school, at one time, I wanted to be an Olympic athlete, but I didn't think beyond performing of the sport. And like so many kids, it's just like I had a struggle. I was poor. I wanted to get out of my station in life, and reaching the highlights and fame and fortunes of being a gold medalist was going to take me out of my situation, right? But I didn't quite achieve that. And throughout high school, I just remember, 2 weeks after I graduated high school, I was right in the United States Navy, NTC San Diego. That's right. I went to basic training in San Diego. And I remember being like really in a haze and confusion of, was that the right choice? Should I have just hung out and gone to college? But in my mind, I thought that I was like, wait a second. The one thing I complained about in high school is I didn't want to be one of those guys in the high school football stand thinking about how life was going to be, wearing my Letterman's jacket, which I never even purchased, and bolstering on the past fame and things that I'd already been in. So what next? So for me at the time, I was like, well, shoot, I'm gonna, you know, I don't want to stay in my small town. I had no options. I had no plans. But I did know something. I did know that, what did my sport teach me? I was in track and field and cross country. I knew I had to train. I ran the hurdles, and 300-meter and 110. I was not the fastest sprinter, but hey, that's okay. I liked running the hurdles. But it trained me to do hard work and understanding that anything that I was ever going to want in life took practice. And the Stoics really point out that it's okay to think where you want to be, but the thinking and believing comes from the practice. And the Stoics really believed in, even practicing the mundane things. They believed in doing the basic skills, and the basic skills to mastery level, to where they couldn't get it wrong. Most of the time, they didn't get it wrong. And if they did, for whatever, life interrupted them and kind of just made it be to where they kind of had to think about things, right? But see, this is the interesting part. We we like to do the same thing. It's like, hey, nowadays with all the technology we have, there's really nothing you can't become, right? But the one thing that really tries and tests you is the amount of work. How much work are you willing to put in? How much study, how much understanding and a lot of us, we, go through the schooling process, and then we go into college, and college is supposed to be like the finishing, the shaping of your career or your profession or your talents and skills. But it's interesting about how in American education, they continued the general education that we spent 12 years on, that you're going to have to learn more of the same, but even more concentrated and intricate, which I think sometimes is kind of a contradiction. If I see some of my friends in Mexico and even overseas, that when they go to university to become an attorney, they're not taking biology over again. They're not taking geology or geography. What's the point? Some studies take more advanced skills in mathematics, like nursing or going to a med school or whatever. These things take a little bit more concentration, specifics, and work, right? But nowadays, people are optionized. Like, do I really want to spend all that money wasting time learning general ed, and then maybe getting a year and a half, if I'm lucky, in my specialty, in my degree? And then to make it worse, it's like, well, what do we do what if I don't know my major? What if I don't know what I wanna be? And that is a lot of people going into college, and then they hope that I will become something, right? But see, for me, I didn't choose that. And I like really what Epictetus is pointing at. And he's like, hey, fixate your mind on the destination and go achieve it. You may have roadblocks, you may have obstacles, you may have things that get in your way, right? Or to test you to see if you were really wanting it bad enough. There's constant things that come in your mindset that are going to interrupt you. There will be many things that will make you question, did you really want it? Or was it just a kind of a part-time thing? You know what I'm saying? And that's really tough for a lot of people to digest. Like, imagine you're 21 years old, you finish college, or 22, let's just say that, 22, 23 years old. You go to college, and then you're like, now what? What companies are going to hire me? And then you're thinking, well, nobody's hiring me for like 6 to 8 months. They're not hiring you right off the bat if you didn't get an internship. And you're like, well, maybe I should go to graduate school. I'm going to need graduate school to give me more of a mastery, right? But that's what college was supposed to be for. It was the finishing to show that you are competent and professional enough to get to be that professional. It's changed over the times, how we view education over the times. Now, I'm not saying college isn't for everyone. I'm not saying that it is for everyone at the same time. I'm saying the path I chose was, I don't know, I just chose, I wanted to get out of my hometown, join the Navy. I wanted to get some life experience. I wanted to see the world. Oh, I saw the world all right. And it was interesting. I learned about people. I learned about teamwork. I learned about paying attention to duties, having some honor and respect about myself. So then when I got out of the service, when I got out of the Navy, I have more of a clear direction? Yes and no. I knew that I know I wanted to go to law school. I know I wanted to practice law, but I took the diversions. I wanted love. I wanted admiration. I was wanting things all the wrong ways. Should I be, or what's meant to be is not to be, is what's meant to be is to be, you know? Shakespeare kind of talked about this, when he was arguing with the skull in one of his stories, and he's like, to be or not to be. That's right, that's the right phrase. And he's like kind of like arguing with like Plato and Socrates in philosophy. What is my true direction? Interesting, right? But your directions are going to constantly change throughout your life. I don't care who you are, unless you are so specific. I'm going to be a doctor and nothing else. I'm not going to waste any time. And that's great if you do that, if you choose that, but you understand that a lot of your life in the adult years will be sacrificed for that profession. Then once you get there, what is the outcome? What kind of doctor? How are you going to, what kind of money you're going to make? What are you going to do? Are you going to have time for life? A lot of us ask that. So the Stoic question of the day for that particular reading says, what kind of person do I want to be? That's more interesting to me than trying to choose a profession. That's interesting to me more than because who you want to be, not your profession. Your profession is a big part of you. Your job is a part of you. But who do you want to be as an adult? Did you have great role models or not? Maybe you grew up in a rough home. And you're saying, you know what? When I grow up, I'm going to treat things a lot differently than maybe my parents or my teachers or my mentors. I'm going to treat and explore life. I'm going to really go after the experiences life and let it fulfill me, right? Interesting. It is interesting to say the least. But hold up. We've got an addition here. Now, for May 3rd, on page 137 of the Daily Stoic, that's right, you can purchase this book online. You can go to thedailystoic.com and purchase this book by Ryan Holiday. I quote him. I like to use him as part of the morning message. It's a basis. I've read Stoicism, just to give you guys some background. I mean, I read Epictetus's discourses and Ashrodian and other books that he's published. And Ryan goes on to talk to his own YouTube and his own stuff, and I just capitalize it, but I'm adding my own spin to what he's kind of talked about. Now, for the second part, for May 3rd, Epictetus in Discourses 3.21, 1 through 3 says, it's about show, not tell what you know. Now, he kind of gives a warning, but so here's the question that goes with this specific quote that I'm about to read. He says, am I showing or telling? Now he says, those who receive the bare theories immediately want to spew them, as an upset stomach does its food. First, digest your theories and you won't throw them up. Otherwise, they will be raw and spoiled and not nourishing. And after you digested them, show us the changes in your reason choices. Just like the shoulders of a gymnast display their diet and training, as the craft of artisans show in what they've learned. Now, going back to the previous reading, that's where the practice really comes into play. It's interesting to see how the practice of life really has worked out for you. Deciding who you want to be. I don't think any of us really decided who we want to be. I think we decide what we'd like to be like, but we're still finding out many of these choices. When you're finding out many of your choices of who you want to be, now it's like, okay, all right, big mouth, check it out. I've got something more sinister for you. Oh,
Oh, really? You think you know what you'd want to do, Okay, we got you. I got you. Don't worry. We'll see about that. We'll add some real life complications.
and that's that little voice inside that which you weren't ready for, and you kind of just like, oh, what's going to happen now? Now, Ryan goes on to explain. He says many of the Stoics in their aphorisms are simple to remember that even sound smart when quoted, but that's not what philosophy is really about. The goal is to turn these words into works. Musonius Rufus put in his justifications for philosophy, and is when only brings together sound teaching with sound conduct. Ooh, how you act. Today or anytime when you catch yourself wanting to condescendingly drop some knowledge that you have, grab it and ask, would I be better saying words or letting my actions and choices illustrate the knowledge for me? Interesting. Now, I read something the other day that was kind of like saying, you couldn't spot a Stoic on the street if you wanted to, not visually, but you could by their actions. Possibly. When someone meticulously takes the time to decide all their decisions, they don't jump to conclusions. Perhaps they read the menu, they read what they're signing away in disclosure notices, NDRs, all that great stuff. They look and they evaluate. Maybe I don't want to make that commitment. You know how, like, when you're on your computer and you're talking about, like, well, hey, I've got to sign away these cookies so they can track me so I can use this thing. Matter of fact, I was using OpenAI yesterday. I was using ChatGPT, and I was learning about ChatGPT and the prompts and what could it do for me. I'm not so eager, but I am aware. I'm not so eager to want to give away my interests to have something create interest for me and speak for me. It writes wonderful things. If I told ChatGPT, like, hey, write me a story about a lawyer overcoming adversity in the Central Valley of California, it will write me a story. But is it my ideas? No. My ideas come from the experiences, the trials and errors. So, like, kind of like what he said when Epictetus says, like, hey, don't be so hasty and saying you get the sample, you get the heading, but you still need to read the meat and the material of the course. You don't know what it's about until you're in it, right? So this goes back to my question, should I be or what's meant to be? I was just meant to be a dad. I was just meant to be. We don't know that. We can't predict the future. Now the whole should word is kind of like a choose your own adventure or a menu option. I should do this. You know how many times I have had friends and colleagues who've literally told me, they have literally said, you know what, Jason, I should become a lawyer. I was always smart. I like to debate. Jason, I should be a doctor. Okay, good. Good for you. I'm happy for you. But what stops you? Well, life kind of got in the way. And when they're explaining of the options of why they didn't choose their should, it's always an emotional decision. I fell in love. I had a kid, circumstances. I got in a car wreck. All the other alliterations that got in the way, the illusions, the disillusions of where they were at and what it was going to take. Like, if you tell anyone to be any profession and you tell them, hey, it's going to take you 11 years to do this, the number one reaction is, that seems like it takes too long. It seems like it, right? And what's wrong with doing the work? What are you going to learn along the way? Are you going to just learn how to be the profession, or is that going to shape part of your character and your person? Well, to be honest with you, it's going to shape part of your person and your character. You're going to decide through hard work, through the grit and the grind of where you need to be, how you need to be, and what it's going to take after you've finished your study. Being an apprentice in anything sucks for most people. No one wants to be the beginner, but we can be the beginner. We can go beyond the beginner. We can go to novice and even on to mastery. And I admire those who've done mastery. Perfect example of mastery is like every time I go to jujitsu and I see Charles Gracie, you know, who's reached the height of a black belt representing his family's legacy. And it's a visible sign. That black belt with some red tabs on it, he's done the work. And I asked him, how long are you doing this? He's like, probably 40 years, all my life, 45, whatever, some odd years. And that's really the example. It's like, do you talk yourself out of your opportunity? And it tends to be an emotional decision. That's right. It becomes an emotional decision. When you're thinking about a lot of the stuff that's taken place, do your emotions screw your opportunities? As a matter of fact, I told a friend and a colleague just the other day, I said, hey, do you want to screw your feelings or screw your opportunities? Most of the time we screw our opportunities, but that's the learning part about life. That's what shapes us. It's when our parents constantly tell us, like, these kids didn't know the sacrifice I had to go through. They didn't have to work as hard, right? That's interesting. We all have our own challenges in the different eras, and they are different from one to the next. What my parents went through is not what I've had to go through, and what my kids are go through is not what, I had to go through. Different parameters, different strokes for different folks, right? So the thought of the day is what you show, what you tell people, and what you've decided to be, keep it to yourself until you've become. So when you make an adjustment saying, well, you know what? I did my best. I wasn't good enough, or I wasn't qualified to do that. The circumstances that have happened, I'm not really overly concerned. This is why a big reason why the Stoics really talk about keep your goals to yourself. But yet we are so eagerly to pass them on to complete strangers, friends unqualified, who are not ever going to do what we're going to do. I don't know anybody, none of my friends in my group ever wanted to be a lawyer. None of them. So why would I go and discuss things so easily with them? And the number one thing I remember in college when I was telling them, like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna go test the LSAT, I'm gonna go to law school, and they'd say, oh, that's great, but how long is that gonna take you? And how long you been in college? I'm like, look, I've been in college for 11 years, for 10 years. I've been in college that I had to go to part-time because I had kids. That was that was the alliteration. That was the difference. I didn't go full-time. I had to work, but I was more concentrated on the journey. So what about, was taking the test to get into law school? Absolutely. It's very stressful. Getting into school was very stressful. So the real thing that I could tell you is gritting through the lessons in life or the experiences in life and still knowing that you want to become whatever it is that you've decided, that destination is absolutely important. Being able to deal with the negations of your time, your interests. Because as you get older, I can tell you at 50 years old, do I still want to become what I said I wanted? Yes, absolutely. I'm no better. I'm no worse. I suffer the same interruptions. But there are people out there who have dead set, they are not letting any distraction get in their way. And I appreciate those people because they've become disciplined. They have chosen that, you know what? I have the resources, the ability, and I'm not letting things get in the way. So many of the speakers nowadays say focus on that one thing. But then they also go and say diversify yourself, right? Diversify yourself. Go become whatever you want, but don't be a dope and just waste all your time in one profession and one source of income. How many times have you heard someone say, well, you need 7 streams of income to be really successful? I ask, what is the definition of success and what does it really look like to you? Where are you going to be happy? What is making you happy? Because you can't decide what you don't already have. You don't know when you don't have something and you're not there. How can you decide that's happiness? You just want the assets. You want the things that, look, I'd like to be wealthy. I'd like to be the biggest influencer in the world. But do I know the weight of what that's like? Let me pause for a second. Good morning, Dimple. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in my live. The real thing that the message of the day is decide exactly the parameters you want to work with in your life. Decide exactly. I don't care if you want to be a lawyer, a doctor, accountant, influencer, whatever it is. Give yourself wiggle room. Give yourself some time. Understand that it does take work. Every person I know, matter of fact, some of my friends here in the live on Clapper, they know that they've had to spend a lot of time about mastering how to make a product work, marketing it. How does the optics look? How do certain things look and how does it make a person feel? What is the message I'm telling you with this person's insight, right? It takes a lot of work. I mean, if you ask them now, you've got to learn how to present yourself, how to speak, you know, you've got to be creative with your art and your imagination. You've got to have a process down. You can't just go and wing things. You're going to have to look at different softwares, and then the industry is going to constantly change, right? You're going to constantly change by your interests. Like right now, I'm learning about things about artificial intelligence, AI, or artificial augmentation. I'm learning about Midjourney and learning about ChatGPT and how to prompt things. Why? Because the world is changing. Maybe the ways that the things that I'd done before are not going to be relevant anymore. But that's staying curious and being mindful. Anyhow, so the overall message is today, decide exactly the parameters you want to work with in life. How are you going to enjoy your life? Because if you just want to go into working just to work, you're going to be stressed out all the time. But be mindful of who you tell your goals to. That's right. I told you, you heard it from me. Be mindful of who you tell your goals to. Find people of a circle of people that can help you get into that journey, who are in that field or in that interest. And that will help you stay a little bit more disciplined. And that's the big key. Are you disciplined enough in your thoughts, in your beliefs, in your mindset, in your spirit, your whole body? I am going to do exactly what it takes to get there. And I'm not letting distractions get in my way. I know distractions will come up, but I won't let it get in my way. Well, that's all the time that I have for Rise and Grind. If you did not get to check this out, you can check it out live or you can check it on YouTube. Just look for Rise and Grind, Should I Be or Meant to Be. That is the name of the episode. I tried to record it earlier and there was tech difficulties, but that's okay. I didn't let that interruption stop me. I still let's reset. Let's go after this. Let's make life happen. We'll see you on Friday. Come back between 7 and 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, usually between 10 and 11 Eastern Standard Time. So you can check this show out. Hope to see you all. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and I appreciate all your support. Hope you all have had a great morning so far, or have a great day. Y'all take care.